Hola Clarita, welcome to my kitchen. Guess what? I am making a video recipe just for you. Since it was so successful the first time, I thought I'd do it again. Why not? Today I'm going to be making albondigas the way my mom used to make. Well, sort of. She is a queen in the kitchen and I've yet to master that, at least with some of her recipes. But I think I'll come pretty darn close to it, making some amendments of my own, giving it my own flair. And I hope you enjoy, so stay tuned. Recipe coming up next. Okay, so we're back, and as you can see, we have some of our ingredients already laid out. We are going to work with 2.5 pounds of ground beef. We have here some sliced olives, and I have a small onion, which I diced up, but as you can see, I split it here in the middle because we're going to use half of it for our actual meatball mixture and the other half for our sauce. I also have 1 green bell pepper sliced up. This was a pretty big pepper. You could use any color you want. I usually like to mix it up and use like the green, the red, and the yellow just to make it look fun in the pan. But today we're just going to use the one color. And then you'll notice here I also have some garlic. And I used about 3 garlics actually, about this size, pretty decent size. So I used 3 of those, and for half of that, so about for 1.5, I chopped it up, kind of coarsely chopped, and then the other 1.5, I really mashed it up. Okay, you can use a mortar and pestle to get this kind of pasty consistency, or I used a grater today. And then, I'm not sure if you can see this here, we have about a tablespoon of chopped parsley. And I chopped it up as fine as I possibly could. Okay. We also have a cup of breadcrumbs, dried breadcrumbs. And in here we have about a 1/4 cup of milk. And I have, in this little mixture, we have 1.5 teaspoons of ground cumin, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of ground black pepper. And then over here I have about 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. We also have stewed tomatoes, which we're going to use for our sauce. So we've got a lot of things going on here. So for the first part, we're going to get our meat mixture done here. So I'm going to bring this over since it'll be the center of attraction. Hopefully you can see it. So like I said, you know what, let me take off my rings before I get them all dirty and my husband sees that on video. You didn't hear that, Axel. So we have about 2.5 pounds of ground beef. Okay, ground beef comes, you know, kind of like all mushed up together. So I just kind of break it up a little bit, not too much because you're going to work with this meat already, but I kind of break it up a little bit just so when I add the other ingredients, the seasonings, it really gets throughout the entire meat. Now, if you have a meat grinder, that's even better. My mom she has several actually, meat grinders, and it really makes all the difference in the world. So if you have a meat grinder, by all means, buy some, you know, nice steak and ground it up. It really makes a big difference in the consistency of your meatballs. Okay, so to this, I am going to add half of the onion, as I mentioned. Okay, just sprinkle that about. Half of your onion. My garlic paste. Again, we're adding all of the garlic paste to this. Okay. I'm just going to kind of just mix that up a little bit so that it really spreads. We're going to add all of our parsley. Sprinkle that about. And all of our breadcrumbs. So like I said, you're going to be working with this meat, so be careful not to overwork it in the beginning when you're just breaking it apart. And just save that for when you're actually going to mix it up with the seasonings. Okay? I'm going to continue adding, since we had so much meat, I just didn't want to add all of the seasoning at once. But now we're going to add the cumin, salt, and pepper. Okay, and as I mentioned before, what did I mention before? Now I'm just talking. I don't know what I'm saying. I didn't want to add all of my seasoning at once. So here we have our mixture of salt, pepper, and ground cumin. Just kind of get that throughout. Hear my dog? She's knocking at the door. She wants to get out. Although I just let her in about a minute ago. Alright, and again, just mixing it up lightly here. Not mushing it. We're going to save the mushing for later when we're actually ready to form our meatballs. And then the last of our ingredients will be the milk and one ingredient that I didn't mention earlier, our eggs. We're actually going to add 2 eggs. So I'm going to rinse my hands here because I forgot to take the eggs out. Dry them. And we'll have 2 eggs. Hi, Scully. Scully has made her appearance. She doesn't know that we're making a video, Scully. We're a little busy. Sorry you can't be in it. And then I like to break up the egg a little bit. Just mix it up lightly. So as you can see, we did our dry ingredients first, and now we're going to add our wet ingredients. And you can do this at the same time. So as you can see, I just poured the milk right into our egg mixture. And I'm just going to go ahead and add that here. And at this point, you're going to mix it enough where you're going to begin to kind of mash it together. And then you'll be ready to form your meatballs. Now, if you feel that your meat is still dry and you're not able to mash it and roll it to get a nice sized meatball, then just add a bit more milk and just be careful about that. You don't want it too wet because then it just breaks apart and it becomes, I don't know, some minced meat. But just be careful with it, like I said, and add it a little bit at a time. So probably add about 2 tablespoons at a time if you feel that your ground beef is a little bit too dry. So I've chosen to use a ice cream scooper, but by all means, go ahead and use, any kitchen utensil you have. So if you just have a tablespoon available, you can use that. Probably use about 2 heaping tablespoons. I'm going to use my ice cream scooper just so that I can get about the same size every time. I don't like my meatballs too big. Some people do, so it's really a preference. But I don't like mine too big. See, even this is a little bit too big for me. I like them nice and small, almost not necessarily cocktail size, a little bigger than that, but definitely smaller than the huge meatball size servings you are used to seeing at the restaurants. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and roll these, and I'll probably yield about a good, I don't know, depending on your size, about 20 to 25 meatballs. In my family, we love meatballs, so we try to make it last. Okay, so I'm going to continue rolling these, and then I'll show you the next step, which will be to saute them in olive oil until you've gotten them browned up on all sides. Okay, so this part, not that interesting, so I'm going to hit pause and come back to you. See you later. All right, Clara, so we are back and ready to saute our meatballs. I'm sorry, our albondigas. I don't know about you, but when I make meatballs, to me, in my head, that refers to Italian meatballs. So when I say albondigas, to me, that refers to the albondigas in this nice light sauce in which my mother used to make it in. So, so what I call the Latin style albondigas, Latin style meatballs. All right, so to this pan, I've added about 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. If you've got one of these nifty little oil dispensers, I learned this wonderful trick from the Rachel Ray Show. If you go 1 full time around the pan, it's about a tablespoon. So obviously I went about 4 times around the pan and got myself about 4 tablespoons. Okay, so to the olive oil, to the hot olive oil, I am going to start adding our meatballs. Now, as you can see, I am dredging the meatballs, or not dredging them, but lightly flouring the meatballs here. Just some light flour, nothing major, just kind of coat it all around, and then we're going to add it to the oiled pan. Okay? So we want to go ahead and get this browned on all sides. Like I said, lightly browned. Nothing too heavy. Just go ahead and roll it and throw it in the pan. So we want to get this lightly browned on all sides. And then I'll show you the next step, which is to cook up the other half of our garlic and onions and the green peppers. Okay. Now, when I was growing up, the reason my mother's meatballs were amazing, well, there were a couple of reasons. One was because she used a meat grinder, so she didn't buy the ground beef from the supermarket. She didn't believe that was totally beef, so she'd rather buy the beef, some good choice of meat, and grind it herself. I, on the other hand, do not have a meat grinder. I will look to purchase one. I have a great KitchenAid cake mixer, so I can just buy the attachment. So I need to do that. So I rely on the ground beef and hope for the best. And usually it's pretty good. But the other reason that my mom's meatballs were so amazing because she used to deep fry them. Now, we're trying to be a little health conscious here and do something that's lightly sauteed in some olive oil. And trust me when I say it will be amazing, but let's be real, nothing beats anything that's deep fried. So, if you want to try the deep fried version, definitely go pay a visit to my mom. She'd love to make it for you. Alright, so we're going to let this cook up. I have to do this in batches. And if you need to add more olive oil, you can do so as you're cooking. So I'm going to cook these in batches and then come back and show you the next step. Alright, welcome back once again, darling. Okay, we are just about done with our meatballs. So I'm just going to start taking them out. And you can see they're beautiful and browned on all sides. And I'm just going to take them out, put them back in our clean platter. And then to this very pan, I am going to saute our garlic and onions and green pepper. So basically I'm going to start making the sauce. And I want to use the flavor of the meat to also flavor the sauce. So that's why we're going to do it in the same pan. Okay, so I have officially scooped them all out. Okay, so here you are, all in its beautiful platter. I'm going to set this aside and go ahead and add our onions. So remember, we had half of our onions were set aside specifically for the sauce. So here we go. And we don't need a whole lot of onions. Remember, we have onions already in our meatballs as well. Okay, and we just want to be careful with the heat. We don't want to burn these. So if you need to move it off the heat or turn off the heat for a moment, go ahead. Just want to lightly saute to so they're browned, which they already are. And then to that, I'm going to add our chopped garlic. Okay, so remember, for the meatballs, we use the mashed up garlic, and the reason for that is so that you can mix it up, and when your guests or your family are eating, they're not biting down onto a big old chunk of garlic. Although, that's actually not a bad thing. I like garlic quite a lot. And I think it tastes amazing. And it is welcome in any meatball of mine. Alright, next up we're going to add the green peppers. Add that to the mix. And get that all cooked up together. Let's just go ahead and mix that up a bit. And just want to release the flavors and continue adding your ingredients. And that is our tomatoes. So now we're going to add the tomato paste. I want to make sure you get that all in there. Mix it and cook it up. Just kind of, again, try to release it a little bit. And kind of break it up and mix into your veggies here. And then I would push this aside and push it to this side just so you could see what I'm going to work with next. So I pushed it all to one side. Just kind of scoop it over. Because you want it cooking, so no need to remove it from the heat. So just continue cooking that. Oops, sorry. I knocked down the camera. That's what happens when you have a one-man shop. And now we're going to go ahead and add our canned tomatoes. So the reason I wanted you to push everything aside, or instructing you that that's what you should do, is so that you can then mash up your tomatoes. Okay? Taking more pictures. I have to take pictures because I'm actually going to use this as a Fox News Latino posting. So taking a potato masher or whatever you have, go ahead and mash up your tomatoes. I'm very particular about my pictures, so please forgive me. This is just for you, Clara, anyway. Alright, so go ahead and mash up your tomatoes as best you can, because you want to break it up. And as you're simmering this, it'll continue to release its juices onto your sauce, onto your meatballs. Sorry. Now, you can use tomato sauce if you'd like. I like to use canned tomato sauce, so I'm not talking about like your pre-made spaghetti sauce. I'm talking about just plain old tomato sauce. If you're going to use that, I'd say you use about, maybe about a 4-ounce can. Okay, if you want a super smooth sauce, you can use that. Mine is going to have just a little bit of chunk in it. Nothing major. A little bit of tomato chunk. Okay, at this point, you can mix everything together. So start bringing in your green peppers and your onions and garlic mixture. Bring that back in. If you've turned off the heat like I did, you want to turn it back on at this point. Make sure everything is heating up. And then, because I have such a huge amount of meatballs, we actually yielded 22 meatballs there. I may need another pan to cook these up in, but we're going to try. We're going to try and cook these up in one pan. What do you say? Alright. To this sauce though, I think I may add a little bit more salt. But I'm going to go ahead and add my final ingredient, which is, what do you think, to make sauce? And it's meatballs. You can either use beef stock or water. I am going to use water. Okay, so I'm going to add, let's see, maybe about 2 cups of water. And what's going to happen is as you are cooking your meatballs in this sauce, your sauce is going to thicken up. It's going to be pretty good. And it's going to release the meatballs are going to release its juices, and you're going to taste it in the sauce. So it's going to give the sauce flavor, the sauce is going to give the meatball flavor. It's going to just be one big happy family in here. Okay, so once you get that heated through, you can add your meatballs back into the mixture. Just be careful not to splash it up against yourself. Oh, it's probably a good time to taste it too. Yeah, I could use a little more salt. Oh, actually I forgot. We're going to add now the green olives. Remember I had I had sliced up some green olives. Alright, so let's add that to the mix. Let me just take one more picture here as I add. Okay. Now, olives, this is typically not something that my mom used to add, but I love olives. As a kid, I hated olives. Can you believe that? I wanted nothing to do with them. Nothing. And now I can pop them in my mouth as a snack without a problem. So what I did is I took about 5 queen-size green olives stuffed with pimento and sliced them up, not too thin, okay, and put them in here. Because I understand those who do not like olives and capers and such, I either cut them up so finely and mince them up and mix it up into my sauce or my meat where you can't see them, or I make them so abundantly clear that they're in there, and that way you can just fish them out if you want. Okay? But people like the flavor. They just don't realize what it is that they like. My daughter, when I asked her, do you like olives? Her response is, bleh. But when I ask her, do you like ropa vieja? She's like, yeah. I'm like, honey, there are olives and capers all over that, baby. Oh, excuse me. So she doesn't have a clue. Anyway, I digress. Let me taste this now. Good. I've added a teaspoon of salt, and obviously I've added the olives. Now I'm going to add back the meatballs. And these are going to cook up in that sauce, like I said, and just create some amazing goodness. I think we will have room in here. Alright, so I am going to now cover this and just let it do its magic for about 30 minutes. And just be sure to check on it every now and then. Make sure that the sauce is not drying out. If you need to, add beef stock at this point. Because it already comes enhanced with some flavor, with some beef flavor, it might be better. Okay, but if you don't have beef stock, water is fine too. Just make sure that you add some flavor. Alright, and with that said, I'll be back to show you the final touch. Just wanted to make sure, Clara, I'm not sure if I told you that you should let this simmer for 30 minutes and let it simmer covered. Okay, so here we are covering it up. See you later. Well, mija, it's been 30 minutes and our meatballs are done. Check them out. And we didn't need to add any more liquid. You know, those 2 cups of water that I added in the very beginning was sufficient. And look, you still have plenty of liquid. And look, it's so beautiful. It's a thin, un caldo, right? That's what we say in Spanish. It's a nice thin sauce, but it is packed with flavor is all I can say. So our dish is ready. We are just going to put this into a little serving bowl and show you the finishing touch. Okay? So Clarita, I am back and I just wanted to show you. All I did was transfer our dish to a serving bowl, as you can see here, along with the sauce. Yum. And I thought the perfect way to serve this dish is alongside some aguacate, right? So I'm going to pierce through this, take a taste, and let you know how it is. Oh my God. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And super, sorry I'm talking with my mouth full, but super, super soft. I'm just taking some aguacate, dipping it a little bit on that sauce. Party in your mouth. Love it. Clara, I hope you try this dish. And if you do, please tell me all about it. I'd love to hear it. So, from mi cocina to your cocina. Love you. Enjoy. So we are eating dinner, right? And we have a special guest. Here we have Madison and Rachel. Say hello. And a special guest, Sophia. Hi, Sophia. And check out what Sophia's eating. What are you eating, Sophia? Meatballs. Meatballs. Oh, Clara, these are the meatballs that I made today, and I made a special video for you to prepare it yourself. And I got to tell you, Sophia, do you like the meatballs? That's a big fat yes from Sophia, which is a big fat deal. All right, toodles, people. Say bye to Clara.
Adios.
Deuces. Deuces. Say bye, Mommy.
Bye, Mommy.